Qemstan Secwepemc Secwepemc. Gokstachko Tkaltkokbi Daskachtachko Datmechsko. Yuchominda Chachwe Dastam na Alena Tmich. Yuchominda Qelmucw Wamasmasran Waspapuya Wasalqua Athol Stiflensko. Nuchwentak Asya Yadsko. Gokstachko Tkaltkokbi Daskachtachko Dochwe Dastam.
My vision for children and families moving forward is empowered, healed, supportive families. Our tradition is we collectively look after one another and ensure that we're looking after one another. If one's without, then somebody step forward and provides. If a mother can't parent, if a father can't parent, then there's laws that guide us where grandmothers come in and take over. And not just take over, they teach. As Secwepemc, we're always learning. As Secwepemc, it's our responsibility to teach so that those values are passed down. And the less dependency that we find ourselves in under colonized systems like Indian Act bans, like tribal councils, the farther we move away and into our own ways of child rearing, the more successful our children will be. And our job as Secwepemc is to build up every single member and give them the tools and resources to be successful, to be independent, to be proud, to be world contributors, to be protectors, to take their role under the Secwepemc governance model. That these roles are defined and children are identified at birth even about what their strengths are. And as Secwepemc, it's up to us to enhance and build those strengths into leadership so that our children are successful and not reliant on government transfers or government handouts, and then it goes beyond how they experience life out there, whether it's in our school districts, on the streets, filling their toolbox to reach out when they need to help and support one another when they're even struggling themselves. We've gotten so far away from that since contact, and the journey back to full jurisdiction is reestablishing that curriculum that's been lost, that traditional curriculum that we had with our families, and then being supportive as a collective. That circle of strength is critical and vital, and that's how we governed in the past around looking after our Qelmucw. It's been shared time and time again that as a child walked through our community, that they felt safe no matter where they were in the community, because everybody kept an eye on the child. But these days, that doesn't happen. Our children are restricted to our subdivisions or our home because of the unsafety and our disconnect from one another, even in community. And a constitution holding up our supreme laws on how we look after one another and our children. It's who we are as Secwepemc. That's what we do. And the more we practice and get back to that practice, that's how we're going to start turning the table on apprehensions, on out-of-care options, on delegated agencies, on MCFD, is by looking internally about what we can do. Because it's up to us. It's within. It's in us to do. And that's always been my belief around our inherent right to look after ourselves. It's more than a belief, it's intricate, it's innate in our being as Secwepemc, to govern and raise healthy Secwepemc and empower them. So it's very much attached to the Constitution work, and it defines who we are. How we treat one another defines who we are.
Well, traditionally, all of our children were at the center of everything, right? Because they were our resource for the years to come, so that, you know, the grandmothers and the mothers surrounded them. They were sort of the primary caregivers and the teachers for those children. And then the men on the outside, you know, just to take care of any sort of the outside threats or whatever there might be. I believe that's what we're working towards, you know, in all of our communities, is that model. Our grandmothers and our grandfathers are really important in children's upbringing and lives, you know, because they teach and they learn, like, you know, bringing them out hunting or gathering berries or even the ceremonies that we have through the sweat house, or you know, we have what's called the Qelmucw, where we go out fasting every year in the summer, you know, to seek out our songs and our samachs, like our animal helpers, you know, for our well-being, moving into adulthood.
Child and family is just one place of looking at the spectrum of everything. And it always goes back to us as individuals, of how we want to see ourselves in today's world. And yes, it has the cultural and the language and the land. So I think it's a change of mindset for me, is how do they fit to us now? And that's what I'd like to see happen in the future.
We want to get away from a delegated agency, because those policies and that legislation does not represent who we are as Secwepemc people. It doesn't implement our Secwepemc values or the structure or the governance structure that we have within our Secwepemc nations. So we don't delegate as leaders to tell our community members what they should and shouldn't be doing. It's more of, we need to seek the direction of community on what they see best for our community and where we're headed to. We want to implement our own Secwepemc law within the work that we do, and also implementing Secwepemc gene or Shuswap language and the values that we hold for each other within the work that we do. Majority of the things that are set up are more of a reaction to, this is how many kids we have in care, like you're counting numbers of how many kids, but yet we should be at the forefront. We do understand what the issues are in our communities, but we have to get ahead of that and start working with our young families from the beginning, and that is making sure that the prevention aspect is more cultural camps, more cultural activities or events, just making sure that there's a big part or a big role in what we do day to day with our children and families. And I think that preventative piece is the most important. I want to be celebrating with our community members. I want to be celebrating with our children and our families, and just getting to that point of where we are a healthy community throughout. It's going to take a lot of healing within our communities, a lot of forward thinking, but a lot of this comes through Secwepemc culture, language, and our values. I think that's really important, and I think that's the root of a lot of the issues that we face in our communities, is that we don't have a lot of those things, Secwepemc culture and the language and that connection to the land. The overall vision and what we've been mandated by the NSTQ communities is that we would achieve full jurisdiction through the treaty process in itself and be protected under Section 35 of the Canadian Constitution. So we have all of these other extra tools that could be utilized, like C92. A lot of those could be implemented and utilize the funds to get infrastructure, which is housing and infrastructure below, sewage and all those types of things. We need to implement, physically have things in our community today, which I think C92 would allow for that. But again, the overall vision is to achieve full jurisdiction under the treaty process. So a lot of these tools will help us get to where we want to be in the future. and it'll all aligned, and we just work in parallel with these processes to get to where we want to be in the end, and that is full jurisdiction of our children and families.
We need to get back to making decisions for our children and families. It's up to us, it's within us to do. We're the ones with the answers. We know how to look after. We know how to nurture. We know how to make the best decisions for our children. And I'm reminded that it's not something over here or pie in the sky that we have to reach and achieve. I'm reminded that we do it every single day, every time we make a decision for our families. We're practicing our inherent right to govern ourselves. And that's where we need to get back to.
I believe that we've raised our children to take us to another level. I believe that we've stood shoulder to shoulder with a lot of the ancestors that have come before us, and that I've just taken another step in that overall vision that we see for ourselves of having a healthy community, a healthy nation. These are just steps that I'm taking on the work that has already been done by people that have come before me. And my kids will continue that process and get us to another level. And it'll go into the next generation, and eventually we'll get to where we want to be, and that is a healthy Secwepemc nation.
The journey to reclaim inherent jurisdiction has been a long one. A cornerstone of inherent jurisdiction is the development of NSTQ services and programs that reflect Secwepemc traditions, values, and culture. NSTQ citizens and leaders have come together with a shared vision that puts children first and supports them with healthy families, healthy communities, and a healthy nation that is connected to the land. In 1993, NSTQ submitted a statement of intent to reassert their inherent right of self-governance and independence by entering the BCTC treaty process. In 1997, NSTQ began agreement in principle negotiations. In 2016, the 4 NSTQ communities voted to proceed to final agreement negotiations. In 2018, NSTQ members voted on a referendum to move from Stage 4 to Stage 5 of the BC treaty process. As Secwepemc people, this is ongoing work we have to do, and with your continued help and involvement, we will make it happen.
Oh, 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 oh.